As of this moment, we are all dead. We go into battle to reclaim our lives. This we do gladly, for we are the Jem'Hadar. Remember, victory is life. Hello there, welcome back to the channel. This is Nerdworld Empire continuing the Dominion exploration series. This one, a big one, so get ready, is on the Jem'Hadar, the fearsome foot soldiers of the Dominion. Before we get started, please like, share, subscribe if you enjoy this content and you like the other videos that are in this playlist, as well as the various others myriaded across my channel. Then please, again, like, share, subscribe, and also share this video around to help the channel grow. With all that out of the way, let's get talking about who and just what are the Jem'Hadar. In brief, which we will explore more extensively now, in brief, the Jem'Hadar are the infantry and fleet operators of the Dominion. They're its foot soldiers, its enforcers, and its general warrior caste. The Jem'Hadar are a genetically engineered species of repto-humanoid that come from the Gamma Quadrant. When they are first hatched, and this is noted that the Jem'Hadar, like the Vorta, are created in bioengineering facilities, but they are referred to as hatcheries, unlike the Vorta's cloning facilities. The Jem'Hadar implication is, with their reptilian appearance and the fact that it is referred to as a hatchery, is that the Jem'Hadar perhaps originate from an egg, not from a live birth or some kind of maturation chamber. The Jem'Hadar are bioengineered and resequenced at a genetic level to accelerate their aging at an unprecedented rate, reaching full maturity in 3 or 4 days after they are hatched. For the first few days, the Jem'Hadar can eat normal food, but when they reach maturity, their bodies flick to a different nutritional source, a narcotic known as ketracel white. Ketracel white is basically a superfood, as well as stimulant and various other things, as well as they are chemically dependent on this from their addiction to it. It's not clear whether or not the addiction to ketracel white is caused by the fact that it is truly a narcotic, or whether they are genetically programmed to require it on a cellular level. As it gives them energy, it gives them food, it helps them oxygenate their blood, it helps in every aspect of their biology. It also helps them with their shrouding ability, gives them much of their strength. The ketracel white is an incredibly potent drug, but is also apparently, again, a superfood that helps the Jem'Hadar merely exist. In terms of culture, the Jem'Hadar don't really have one. They worship the founders, the changelings as they're otherwise known, as living gods of the Dominion. However, the Jem'Hadar, most of them, will never see a changeling in their entire existence, leading some Jem'Hadar to even believe that changelings are a myth themselves, but they're genetically hardwired and conditioned to believe fanatically that the changelings are gods, something the Vorta also believe. The Vorta, from the Jem'Hadar's perspective, although are disliked, are seen as the physical representatives of the changelings, and will give them a certain degree of reverence and respect in this regard. However, there have been instances where Jem'Hadar have turned on the Vorta and killed them, and even abandoned the Dominion, believing basically that changelings don't exist and wanting their own society. It's not clear if the Jem'Hadar ever originated as another species in the Gamma Quadrant, or if they are engineered completely from scratch, although it should be noted that as a repto-humanoid species with an ability to shroud itself, the shrouding being a natural biological ability to cloak and become invisible to the naked eye, although it doesn't dampen other sensory abilities to pick them up. There is another species that also lives in the Gamma Quadrant that is a repto-humanoid that shares this ability, a race simply known as the Tosk. The Tosk are prey to another species and are certainly less evolved than the Jem'Hadar as a combat species, but are noted for their dense muscle structure and their ability to shroud themselves, make themselves invisible. Not saying they're definitely related, but it's an interesting coincidence that these two species are in such close proximity to one another, but the Jem'Hadar are completely bioengineered. The Jem'Hadar are bred for war, literally. Their species have an innate aggression that is only tempered by their own discipline, but their constant need to fight and desire to destroy the enemies of the Dominion is literally hardwired into their biology and conditioned into them psychologically. The Jem'Hadar are greatly feared by the member states of the Dominion because they're not really known for their diplomacy or democratic skills, merely how they bring death at the end of a polaron rifle or blade, or just simply with their bare hands. In terms physically, of course, they are addicted to the ketracel white, but this does work as something of a stimulant to a species that already has a very dense muscle structure and a very high tolerance of physical injury and pain. Jem'Hadar like to fight. They have hard, scaly skin with bony spine-like protrusions sticking out of their face and presumably from other parts of the body. They do have hair, some of them anyway, on the back of their head, which is an interesting mammalian feature, unusual for a reptile, but not all Jem'Hadar possess this, but many of them do. They're generally divided into two castes, one more recently engineered than the other, known as the Gammas and the Alphas. The Alphas were bioengineered in the 2370s in order to greater combat the threats of the Alpha Quadrant races like the Klingons, the Romulans, the Federation and others, believing that they were more suited. This indicates that the Jem'Hadar are often tailored to specific enemies, that knowledge and information imparted to them, not to mention possibly a few physical attributes to make them more capable of dealing with specific opponents, may be hardwired into them. Meaning the Jem'Hadar may have genetically evolved over time to become greater warriors. That means that the Jem'Hadar that exist now, hypothetically, may not be exactly the same as the Jem'Hadar that lived 300 years ago, say, for instance. They have a very dense muscle structure and are, as I said, ferociously strong and aggressive. The race believe fanatically in the Dominion and in the Changelings and will obey any order, kill anyone, even going as far as to commit acts of genocide in the name of their gods. They're literally a demonstration about how fanaticism can be the worst aspect, potentially, of any culture. The only other aspects of Jem'Hadar culture that are of note that can possibly be seen as cultural are the fact that the Jem'Hadar have some kind of reverence for elder Jem'Hadar, but an elder Jem'Hadar is about 20. Very rarely do Jem'Hadar live beyond this, as most of them are killed in combat, as they're in a constant state of warfare with someone, if not fighting with prisoners or other such things for training, possibly even being killed by their own superiors for disobeying orders or ill discipline. It's not known how long a Jem'Hadar could naturally live for, but considering they were biologically engineered to age at an accelerated rate, although this does seem to slow down, it could indicate that their lifespan is considerably shortened. But it's hard to say, considering we don't know what the natural lifespan of the species actually is, if they're capable of living to 50, 60, 100 years old, maybe even longer, as some species are. When it comes to militarism, however, despite their lack of culture, the Jem'Hadar are ferociously disciplined, tough, organized, well-trained, brutal, vicious fighters. The Jem'Hadar will take on any opponent, any enemy, if their gods command it, without fear, without reservation, or without hesitation to commit the most brutal and heinous acts in their name. They rely heavily on advanced technology, but the Jem'Hadar themselves are not afraid to get dirty. They will claim any world that they land on for the Founders, and will engage any enemy, again, in the name of the Founders or in the name of the Dominion. Going as far as to commit suicide, use suicidal tactics in engagements with any enemy that they come across, without fear of death or the repercussions thereof. They use a very, very simplistic ranking system, however. The Jem'Hadar are simply known as the first, the second, the third, and so on in a command structure aboard their vessels. They don't have a ranking system that would be more familiar to humans, like general and other such things. Any higher ranks than that are held by the Vorta, who work as administrators and organizers for the Dominion as a whole, commanding the Jem'Hadar, although not necessarily commanding them in battle, although the Vorta do often work as strategists, but don't get involved in direct combat. That is left with the Jem'Hadar. It is noted that Jem'Hadar have excellent eyesight, as they need it more being soldiers, excellent hearing, and have a very high tolerance, as I said, for pain and injury. But if the supply of Ketracel White is interrupted, Jem'Hadar will lose their ability to biologically shroud themselves, otherwise known as cloaking, if you want to call it that. They will also become irrational, violent, aggressive, to the point where eventually they will turn on the Vorta, kill the Vorta in charge, kill anything they can get their hands on nearby, until eventually they turn on each other and will kill each other until they can no longer function and they succumb to their own withdrawal symptoms, causing them a very painful and slow death. They're not capable of deriving nutrition from other food sources once they are an adult, so eating fruits, vegetables, or animals in the local environment won't help them. They may try this, as Jem'Hadar stranded on worlds will often resort to eating such foods for what little nourishment it can give them, but thanks to the withdrawals of the Ketracel White, their bodies will eventually succumb to those symptoms, although on rare occasions some Jem'Hadar have been noted to be able to chemically produce the substance naturally within their bodies. This is a freak mutation, possibly indicating some level of natural selection amongst the Jem'Hadar and genetic diversity caused by unknown factors. It could also indicate that the Jem'Hadar's ancestors naturally produced Ketracel whites, and this was engineered out of them in order to create it as a chemical substance of which to control the Jem'Hadar. But that is pure speculation, of course. There are no female Jem'Hadar, there are only males. Their species can be produced in large quantities very quickly thanks to their accelerated aging and the method of their genetic engineering, not to mention the fact that the Dominion is very advanced with cloning technology, and it's not beyond the realm of possibility that many Jem'Hadar are also clones in order to facilitate more rapid production of the Jem'Hadar during times of war, such as the Great War with the Allied powers of the Alpha Quadrant in the 2370s. It's unknown if there ever were female Jem'Hadar. One of the great questions about the Jem'Hadar is, did they start out as a biological species? As I said, it is possible, although it's only my personal hypothesis, that they are possibly genetically related to the species known as the Tusk, who we again are assuming that there are both male and females, although we don't know much about that species either. It's possible they reproduce asexually. It's also plausible that the Jem'Hadar did this as well. But when questioned on the subject, Jem'Hadar would state that there are no Jem'Hadar females, but yet Jem'Hadar males do demonstrate curiosity about females, although they don't seem to have anything like a reproductive drive, which has again likely been bred out of them. The innate biology may still be there. If it's compatible with other humanoids is completely unknown, and it's likely Jem'Hadar are engineered to be sterile anyway. But did they originate as a biological species that the Dominion simply modified? Now, in some, let's say, non-canonical out-of-universe parallel dimension sources, the Jem'Hadar did start off as another species that was encountered by the Changelings. A great warrior race that were not spacefaring, but were incredibly violent and warlike, and impressed the founders as a species of great warriors, and they offered them a chance to become the galaxy's greatest warriors, and the species snapped up the opportunity, allowing themselves to be genetically modified and become servants of the Changelings. But this happened so many thousands of years ago that the race now retains no ancestral memory of such an event, and the females were bred out of them, and if the species still exists, it is completely unknown. However, that is, I should stress, a non-alpha canon piece of information. The Jem'Hadar often demonstrate more of a grasp of the sense of honour than, say, the Vorta or the Changelings do. Although they can be a little bit more held to their word, if they are ordered to disobey it, break their word by the Vorta or Changeling, they will do so instantly. The Jem'Hadar, by the Klingons' point of view, fight without honour, and they fight for no cause other than the name of their gods, and because they're told to do so. And because of this, the Klingons see them as inferior warriors, if not still a great challenge to overcome. The Jem'Hadar, back to their devotion to the Changelings, it should also be pointed out, are so devoted, so fanatical in this devotion, that if the Jem'Hadar on assignment were ever to allow the death of a Changeling to take place that they were either tasked with safeguarding or were tasked with recovering and rescuing, if that Changeling happened to be killed, the Jem'Hadar will commit ritual suicide as penance for the mistake in allowing their god to be killed. Despite this loving devotion to their god, it is not reciprocated by the Changelings. Any sense of loyalty to these solids, which serve them as loyal foot soldiers of the Dominion, is in no way admired or reciprocated by the Changelings. They will sacrifice 1,000,000 Jem'Hadar, 1,000,000,000 Jem'Hadar, it doesn't matter to them. Their lives mean nothing. As far as they are concerned, they are nothing but disposable tools for the Dominion at large. They will gladly allow them to die, fall on their sword, kill themselves, or kill and massacre others. It really makes no difference to them. Any Jem'Hadar that doesn't perform, doesn't follow orders, is immediately executed. Any Jem'Hadar that can't fall into line is executed. They don't even bother putting medical facilities aboard their ships. The injured, if they are going to be a burden, are simply executed. The Changelings, and by extension the Vorta, endorse this policy of basically the Jem'Hadar are slave soldiers to the Dominion. They are disposable lives that have no meaning to the empire that they fight for. They have no rights or privileges or freedoms within that empire other than the right, privilege and freedom to kill and destroy in its name. That is it. Which, for the Jem'Hadar might seem good, but from an outside point of view, they really have no right to self-determination. They can't choose what they want to be. Every Jem'Hadar is born a soldier, it will die a soldier, it is nothing else. If they do learn other skills or traits, they are only ever secondary. Jem'Hadar have demonstrated an ability to be reasonably good with mechanics, and they have some medical training, but like anything, this is field work. The Vorta likely handle most of this. The Jem'Hadar are there to kill, and that is it. They do this job extremely well, as an extremely focused and dedicated force. But again, unfortunately, the love they have for their gods is not a two-way feeling. They are nothing to the Dominion. They are nothing to the Changelings, but a tool, a weapon to wield against the enemies of the Dominion. But that is what we know about the Jem'Hadar as a species. Are they worthy of redemption? Do you believe the Jem'Hadar could survive as an independent species if they were to either find a way to chemically produce Ketracel White, maybe meet up with whatever species they originated from, if it still exists and bears any resemblance to them? Could the Jem'Hadar be more than what they are? Should others try to save them because they are slaves, but they don't recognize that they are slaves? Are their lives then worth saving? Are they not worth saving? It's an ethical debate that's rather intriguing, one that wasn't overly explored during the Dominion War, as basically the Jem'Hadar were the enemy and they had to be eliminated at all costs. But the morality is the Dominion basically was using child soldiers. As I said, no Jem'Hadar was older than 20, really. Very few of them. Certainly none of the ones fighting in the Alpha Quadrant would have been particularly old. And none of the Alphas, definitely. They would have been basically infants. But what are your thoughts? Are the Jem'Hadar worth saving? Could there be a future for them outside of the Dominion if the Dominion was ever to fall apart? Or would their devotion to their god override any sense that the Jem'Hadar could ever possibly have to be more, be better? Let me know in the comments below, and again, like, share, subscribe if you enjoyed this video, share it around, and thank you for watching. Bye bye. I'd just like to say a thank you to everyone for watching that video. I hope you enjoyed it. I really enjoy making these. If you did enjoy it, please consider giving a like, share, and a subscribe, and maybe checking out the other videos on the screen right now, and in the description box below there are links to my other social media accounts.